What's holding you back? What's holding you back from taking that next step in your property investing journey? Whether it's the first step or whether it's the first step into property development, whether it's the first step into commercial property investing. What it boils down to is not education all the time. Like you have access to all of the internet. You have access to ChatGPT. You have access to Harvard Business Review education that is out there absolutely free. So it's not education that's stopping people, it's mindset. And that's exactly why we're getting on this next guest that you're about to see, Kylie Walker. She is a mindset coach, and she has some pretty powerful tactics to unlock the mindset of successful property investors. That is her niche, and she helps people do, like, literally one of her clients is doing a $20 million subdivision right now. And there are all the challenges and things that go along with that. But more importantly, from a mindset aspect, how do you unlock that next level? How do you make sure that you keep pushing forward rather than just being, a challenge comes up and you do nothing about it? So I really enjoyed this session. Hey everyone, my name is Joe Tucker, and together with Jeff Miles, we started Oz Property Investors. It's Australia's largest property investment community. We have almost 80,000 members. Ridiculous. Each week we interview top property experts to unpack how can we take our investing to the next level. We get pretty into the weeds from a detail side of things, from the mindset approach that you need as a property investor. I'm going to shut up now. Let's jump into the session. Make it happen.
You speak to hundreds of, or you have spoken to hundreds of, and helped many investors and developers in that time. What are the things that, what are the top three of those that you see repeated across that group of people that separates them, the people that take action, from the people that are just left behind and don't take that action?
Top three.
Or just, it doesn't have to be free, but just what are the key things?
So the top thing. So they're really clear on the outcome that they want to achieve and why. Yeah. So when you get lost, often it's because you're not connected with the reason why you're doing this. So you've kind of got a bit fuzzy with that, and it's not, the outcome isn't pulling you or driving you anymore. So the people that lose direction and just kind of get lost in the weeds and that kind of stuff, they're not really attached to the reason why they're needing to take the actions that they need to take. So the people that I'm working with and the people that I've worked with in the past that have got the best results, they're really connected with the goals that they want to achieve. And often these people will be reading them every morning. They'll be quite diligent about reading their goals every day. And we hear this in lots of personal development teachings if you're immersed in that path like I am. But they will continuously be looking at their goals. When I've worked with people and asked them, why are you doing this? Why did you decide to go down this path? And they're like, when did you last read your goals? Like, how connected are you to your why? Be like, oh, that's right, we covered that like 3 or 4 months ago. Like, they're just not connected anymore. So you have to stay emotionally connected to the thing that you want to achieve. Yes, Joe?
Yeah, otherwise it's just going to not be as important. So
this is one thing I really, especially to my male clients, I'm always talking to them about, who are you being? Like, how are you taking care of your physical body? That's a really great indicator as to where you're at.
Yeah.
Are you being really scrappy with your kids? Yep.
Yeah, I was talking about this the other day on a walk, and I said, there's always a reason to not go for the run or go to the gym or whatever it is. And I've started to, and I've stopped it because unfortunately a calf sort of strained. But anyway, you realize you think you have to get out, you have to do it for yourself, you have to take that care, and then after that, you come back and you're refreshed and you're actually more motivated, I find. So yes, it might take you that half an hour or an hour to take that time out for yourself that you don't have anyway. But it's like saying, if you don't have 10 minutes to meditate, you need to meditate for 20. It's kind of, it's a bit, I find that, like the more I do that exercise, I start to become more productive, and it becomes like a positive reinforcement loop. It's like I go and get that, I feel good, I go and get more work done, and everything kind of just flows more naturally, kind of thing. But it's just interesting that.
Some of the other things to be mindful of is, are you dragging yourself out of bed? Like, is it really hard for you to get up in the morning? Are you snapping with your kids, like short-tempered with your kids? How's your relationship with your partner? Like, if all of that's starting to decline, then you need to be checking in on yourself and your actions and your headspace and what you're doing.
So I guess going into that, you're starting to see these negative self-talks. You're starting to see alcohol consumption go up. You're not working out as much as you can. Due to the pressure and the stress of the activity that you're taking, right? You're running a business. You're doing a big property development. Like what you're saying, I guess the question I have is great, does this whole coaching thing allow me to have both, right? It allows me to detach from the negatives, get to the positives, have those better relationships, and then also succeed in the property development that I'm trying to do or the business that I'm trying to do. Because otherwise you're just going to go down in this, I mean, the answer is going to be yes, I feel, but can you elaborate?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So firstly, it's having someone that you can talk to where you can take off the mask and say, this is what's going on. Like, my wife doesn't know how bad I'm doing, or, they don't understand how much financial pressure we're under, or, oh my gosh, things are going down right now and I can't share it because then I'm going to worry everyone. And I'm just I've got to fix it. And I feel like I can't tell anyone and I don't know how to cope with this anymore. So this is these people that are waking up, 2 a.m. in the morning with their mind racing. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like they get the middle of the night scaries kind of taking over. So with the coaching, it's like having the space and having the opportunity to talk to someone and be real about what's going on. And, being independent, don't know, not involved in the circumstance. So that can be also really freeing and helpful for people. I lost my train of thought.
No, I think that kind of answers it. Yeah, I think for me,
and then,
no, you
go.
What I was going to say,
lots of angles. Sorry, Jeff. I keep talking.
What I'm sort of picking up or hearing is that there's no guarantee that coaching, and I know you don't necessarily want to say this, there's no guarantee that coaching is going to solve that problem. But what it'll do, it'll start to create that mind space that you can start to think about things from a different level, which gives you the opportunity to solve it and to get to a better space, which then will invariably probably make the situation better. And it might not mean you're going to make $5 million on a property deal. It might just mean that your marriage is able to survive, your kids will still speak to you, and you'll get to the gym more regularly. So you might not necessarily become as financially successful, but you might not melt down. So I suppose
Yeah. So thank you for bringing me back on track with that, because I was kind of going off on a tangent. So with the coaching, like we'll go through what's really going on and then work out what do you have control over and what don't you have control over. So often the things that we're worried about, or that people are worried, but clients are worried about, is all the stuff that they can't actually control. So we're looking at what is within your control, what is not within your control. So, okay, now we know what is within your control. What do you need to be doing? Oh, I need to be phoning my investors, or I need to be phoning counsellor, or I need to be phoning the stumper, whatever it may be. So what are those things that you need to be doing? And right, let's break that down. And sometimes I can break it down into really minute detail for someone, depending on how stuck they are. But it's like when you're clear about what is it within my control, what actions can I take, and what actions do I need to take, then it starts to remove a lot of the noise that's going on in your head. And then from there, when you have accountability, sorry, you got, yep.
The sphere of influence, I was just saying, like what you're talking to there, I feel is the sphere of influence. So what can you control and what's probably a bit further outside of your control?
Mm-hmm. And then some people, when they're in a state that they're really feeling the pump and they're under pressure, they need the accountability. So often high performers are internally driven, and then they have their own level of self-accountability and they don't need external accountability. But there will be times that you do need external accountability. And it's not just checking in with a friend or checking in with a peer. Sometimes you need accountability with a coach, as an example. So when you're saying, I didn't do blah, blah, and I'll be saying, okay, so what is it that held you back? Not why, because it sounds really confrontational, but what is it that held you back, or what did you focus on instead? Oh, I did blah, blah instead. So I'm thinking about, why did you focus on that instead of doing the thing that we said or that you committed to doing? And then we can work out what it is that they're avoiding and what the real reason is that they're not doing those things. So it could be, I'm afraid of confrontation. So I didn't make that call, and they didn't realize that they were afraid of confrontation, but that's actually what's showing up when we unpack it.
Mm. What about a newbie investor, right? Like we hear this all the time. I'm just starting out. Like, what is your advice to them? They've got all of they've got the things. They've got the borrowing ability. They've got the service ability. They've got the cash. Like, how do you get them to make that real estate agent call? How do you get them to make that broker call? What is that? Yeah. How do you think about that?
The sooner you start making the calls, the better you'll feel. So I had worked with someone who was so fearful of making calls to agents because he was new at developing. He felt like they wouldn't take him seriously. He felt like he didn't really know what to say. So I actually did role plays for a bit. And we can do that in a controlled environment and start to build the muscle of what you could possibly say. And because I've had experience working in a real estate agency as a BDM, I knew the way that all works and could throw different kinds of things at him that he wasn't expecting. So to try to build his muscle and his ability to deal with uncertainty. So you can only role play so much. You just actually have to do that thing, and would set a goal to make 5 phone calls in a week, like 1 phone call a day, and then we'll increase it to a couple more phone calls per day, and would say make the calls to the agents that you don't care so much about the relationship with first. So then if you stuff up the call, when I used to have to make a lot of outbound calls in one of the roles I was in, I would jokingly, we would have this thing where we would have our voicemail fail. So you'd be like, when you're feeling a little bit rusty and you're having to make these calls and leave a lot of voicemail messages, sometimes you leave a message and you just kind of be tongue-tied and it didn't really come out properly and it didn't flow and didn't sound as professional as you needed it to be. But I would look at it and go, oh, I got my voicemail fail out of the way today, and like laugh it off. And it's kind of like I've warmed up. And then I was just able to make more calls and leave more messages and not be quite so clunky. So when I was working with that person that I'm mentioning, my suggestion to him was to make calls to agents that perhaps were outside of the area. I'm not wanting to waste anyone's time, but hey, we've got to do what we've got to do to get going.
Yeah.
Make calls to agents that are outside of your area to get comfortable with asking the questions. Have your list of questions that you need to ask them and start to write down the answers. And then know that, and then review that phone call when you got off that call. So what did I do well? What do I need to say differently next time? And understand that the way they respond to you isn't always about you. They just may be super busy. They may be in the middle of negotiating a deal. They may be on the road. They may be about to set up for an open home. So just know that real estate agents are juggling lots of things, and you making your call, they want to speak to you because that's how they make the commissions when they make a sale. So they actually need to talk to people to get paid. So that's what they do. And the sooner you get more confident with making the calls, the better those calls are going to flow and the more confident you're going to feel. But you will never get the confidence that you need if you just don't start making those calls.
Often people say, oh, I'm really excited about investing. My partner is not. And even if you're single, this is can be very important to you as well. So what challenges do you find people are facing when they have, I suppose, a significant other, a partner, whichever term you want to throw in there? What are those challenges people face?
Mm-hmm. So they can face reluctance from their partner to invest, obviously, to get on the property investing journey. And I think it's really important that you understand what their reluctance is. So I've spoken to a lot of people and said, oh, I really want to do this and my partner's just not on board. Or I really want to do this and my partner's encouraging, but they don't want to be involved at all. And they're trying to bring them and push them and make them be on board. And so you've got to ask yourself, I'm really passionate about property, but is my partner? Back when I was married, I was obsessed. When I was married, my husband said to me, can we just talk property on Monday nights? Because it's all you ever talk about and it's driving me crazy. I didn't realize I was like that. And I've had someone come up to me at an event and say that their wife has said something similar because they just can't turn it off. They don't have an off switch when it comes to property. So it's really important to know whether your partner is even interested in property. And, if not, that's okay. If they're supporting you, that's okay. You just do your thing and keep them updated with what they want to know. If your partner is fearful, so they kind of want to support you, or they're saying don't, or they're raising concerns, it's really important that you understand their risk tolerance. So I know I've got a high tolerance to risk. My ex-husband didn't. So when things turned to shit, things blew up, right? You can understand it when you can see, hey, I can handle a lot of hard, a lot of challenge. He couldn't. And when you're trying to like meet somewhere in the middle, you can just see why, marriages end and things happen when things go wrong. So if you've got a high risk tolerance and you're married to someone who doesn't, you actually have to respect where they're at, because you can just tip them over the edge in terms of their mindset. Like they may be someone who needs a lot more certainty than you do. Like I don't need a lot of certainty. I love variety and all that kind of stuff. So when I'm with someone who needs a lot of certainty, I have to be really respectful of that. And just because I want to take these risks, is it actually fair on my partner if we're in a committed relationship together? So I think it's a really important and respectful thing to consider. There's that aspect, yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do you do that without sort of compromising your own? Like if you want to go out and kick goals and build a $3 million property portfolio like Oz probably has, how do you then respect your own kind of goals, but then also respect the other person? Because there can be a bit of conflict there. Like, is there a respectful way to do that?
So you could ask them, what do they need to have to feel safe? Like safe in inverted commas, like financially safe. So I know for one example I can think of is a wife had said to her husband, just don't leverage our own home. I just need to know that whatever you do, we will never lose our own home. So that person needed to raise money in other ways and use their properties, but could never, ever get additional lending on their own home, because she just needed to know that no matter what happened, home safe. And then he could go off and do a thing. So if you understand what your partner needs to feel safe, then you know what you're playing with and what you're working with.
What is the biggest limiting belief you had to overcome in your property journey? Like, what's held you back, do you think?
Good question. That's a good question for you as well, Jeff, and a good question for me to think on as well. So we'll give our three.
I can go first if you feel comfortable.
Yeah, you go first. It sounds like you've got this hot and ready. I haven't got
so
mine.
I mean, what my biggest limiting belief is that I didn't have, I suppose, the capacity to do it. As in, like, I thought, crap, I had to come up with all the money, all the resources, all that sort. I had to do it all myself. And what I realized by doing a couple of joint ventures, and joint ventures they have their challenges, but I did those, and I was like, you know what, this has its challenges, but it was actually, I was able to do no money down deals. So you're like, okay, great. This is very possible and very achievable. I overcame that belief that I had to do everything in my property investing journey myself. There are ways you can combine, and we don't necessarily encourage this in Oz Property, but there are other groups out there as well that you can join. So that was probably my biggest limiting belief. How about you, Kylie?
Mine was that I needed more and more and more and more and more and more information and mentoring programs after I had my losses and my setbacks. I actually needed to heal the stuff and the trauma that was associated with that and work through that kind of stuff. And I see this happens with a lot of people. They'll continuously invest in more programs and so they need more information. And really it's, lack of self-confidence, or it's a fear of making a mistake or a fear of going through those difficult experiences again. So that was mine.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I see that all the time. I see these serial educators, and like Jeff and I have done a bunch of courses, and then I'm like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, you've done that course? Oh, I was thinking about doing this course and this course and this course. I'm like, when are you? So you must have a 6-7 portfolio. Oh no, I'm spending all my money on courses and I'm not actually taking any action on things. The biggest thing, I guess, mindset for me was that you can do it. Like, anybody can do this. And going back to what Jeff is talking about there, he may not have had the financial capacity like to do a development. He may not have had the borrowing ability to do the development. He just jumped in there and made it happen. So whatever it is, you may not think you're smart enough or sexy enough or have enough money or have enough borrowing or have enough skill. You can do a lot. I've seen people far dumber than you, whoever you are out there, achieve amazing results in property, and they're fucking idiots. So you can be whatever you want. You just need to actually take the action to it. Get educated, but then take the action on it.